Hi, I'm Alyssa Ford Morell. I'm a Virginia Cooperative Extension Master Gardener with the Master Gardeners of Northern Virginia. Here today to talk about an invasive plant, Tree of Heaven, or Ailanthus altissima. Before I get going on that though, I want to make sure that we're on the same page about what an invasive plant is. It was defined very formally by both President Clinton and later President Obama signing executive orders that defined it very clearly. Together, those orders say that an invasive plant is a non-native plant where it is occurring, that is capable of escaping cultivation, getting out into the wild, outcompeting the native plants, and causing harm. Harm to the economy, harm to the environment, or harm to human, animal, or plant health. I'm here by the 4 Mile Run Trail in Arlington with a fairly young tree of heaven, Ailanthus altissima. Uh, it is a very popular tree in America. It was introduced back in 1784 and has been available in the nursery trade since the 1800s. A lot of Americans have a very fond spot in their heart for this tree because it is the tree that was written about in the best-selling book, A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, and showed a lot of resilience. Well, that's part of the problem with this tree. It is a very resilient tree. But let's take a moment and talk about how to identify, in case you're not sure whether you have an Ailanthus tree or not. First of all, the tree has these very large compound leaves. These individual leaflets are not the leaf. The whole thing is the leaf, and it's a compound leaf, and they're very, very big. The leaflets each have a little notch. It's called a glandular notch that is on every single one of these leaflets. There may be more than one notch on there. Glandular tooth is what it's called. Now, because it's such a big leaf, it is very heavy on the tree. And so when it falls off, it actually makes a leaf scar, quite a large one, and it's heart-shaped. It can sometimes be even longer and thinner than this one, but you can see this is a large heart-shaped leaf scar. The last piece of identification that I generally use is the smell of a leaf. When you pull off a leaf and crush it a little bit and smell it, it has what I find a rather unpleasant smell that smells like it is rancid or rotten peanut butter. And that smell is really unusual and very distinctive for this tree. One of the challenges with Ailanthus tree is that it is allelopathic. It puts out a chemical that discourages other plants from growing near it. It is a self-defending plant. Also, it is a dioecious plant, meaning that it has both male and female plants. And so it is particularly important that if you have an Ailanthus that sets flowers, that you should really be sure to get rid of that as soon as possible, because those flowers put out thousands of seeds each season and get widely spread, and you'll get lots of little tiny baby Ailanthuses coming up. I believe that my neighbor had an Ailanthus for a number of years, and I was forever pulling the babies out of my yard. I believe they've finally gotten rid of that female Ailanthus, and I'm so pleased that there are a lot fewer baby Ailanthuses to pull. Yay! In order to successfully remove an Ailanthus tree that is in place, We do not recommend cutting it down. In fact, cutting it down will only trigger its defenses, and you will have a whole grove of Ailanthus trees grow up from the roots. Instead, you have to be very strategic. You can use what is known as the hack and squirt method, where you use an axe or hatchet to make some cuts into the bark in several places. You do not want to completely encircle that bark because that will trigger that root suckering habit. But a few cuts, and then you use an herbicide put into the cuts, something like triclipper or another appropriate approved herbicide that you research out. That will be sucked into the root system and kill the entire tree, hopefully. It may take more than one application. Of course, if you're going to use an herbicide, you should definitely read all the instructions on the label and follow them, and also protect yourself with some appropriate clothing. Once you've gotten rid of your tree of heaven, we fortunately have 3 great native replacements to suggest in its place. Our first alternative to invasive Ailanthus is Rhus typhina, staghorn sumac. It gets the name staghorn sumac because its branches have this wonderful fuzzy quality along them, much like the horns of a stag, and it's said to resemble that. It's a great shrub or tree, depending on how you define that by height. This grows to be about 25 feet high, and it has 3 seasons of interest. In the spring, it has beautiful white flowers. In the summer, it has really cool red berries that were used by Native Americans to make a lemonade-like drink. And in the fall, we're just starting to get a little bit of color from the fall change of season, and you get yellow, orange, and red colors that will take over all the leaves, and it looks quite stunning at that time. Staghorn sumac likes to grow in thickets, as you can see here. They're created both by seeds spreading and by root suckering, and they'll make this nice growth here. It is a wonderful native plant that supports several native insects, and in fact is a larval host plant for both the spring azure butterfly and Luna moth. You don't want to put this right in the middle of a lawn because its skin is actually quite thin and sensitive, so it's easily damaged by mowers or lawn trimmers. But put it in a bed that is set off a little bit by some mulch, and you should do just fine. If you want to rejuvenate your sumac, you can do so every few years by cutting it to the ground. It'll come back from the roots and look beautiful all again. We're here in my own backyard in Arlington, where I am lucky enough to have not one but 2 young hickory trees in my own backyard. These are lovely trees that also have compound leaves like the Ailanthus. They do not have as many leaflets on them, but they are larger, and the number of leaflets vary depending on which hickory tree you're looking at. There are at least 5 kinds of hickory trees that call Northern Virginia their home, that they're native in Northern Virginia, and they're all quite nice. They vary in height from 50 feet all the way up to 90 feet. So these are some really large trees. They are tricky to transplant. They have a taproot, so it's really best for you to get a fairly small tree and let it settle in and that taproot just grow on its own as it so desires. But in 30 to 40 years, they're going to make some wonderful nuts that you can use in cooking.
Hickories are also known for their support of insects and birds and for their very beautiful fall colors.
We're here at the Sunny Garden, one of the demonstration gardens of the Master Gardeners of Northern Virginia, to look at our third replacement for invasive tree of heaven. This is Sourwood, Oxydendrum arboreum. It's a beautiful small to mid-sized tree ranging from 20 to 50 feet high. One of the great things about it is that it really has 4 seasons of interest. In the spring, it has lovely little flowers, bell-shaped white flowers that look a lot like lily of the valley, which gets replaced by fruit. And then in the fall, we have some beautiful fall colors that will persist on leaves quite a ways into winter. And then even in winter, after the leaves have dropped, the seed heads stay on the tree and give a really interesting sculptural look. The flowers, when they are in bloom, are big attractors to a number of different insects. And in fact, honey made with these particular flowers is well known for being particularly delicious. This is pretty easy to grow. It likes sun, some shade, and some moist ground. Whichever native plant you choose to replace invasive tree of heaven, we wish you happy gardening.